Well, Friday, November 6th. So I see they're still counting down south. It's amazing. When was the election? On the 3rd. Still counting on Tuesday. They're still counting on Friday. And it's not the fact that they're just counting. I mean, it's the way some of the numbers are mathematical impossibilities. And I suppose you believe what you believe. I've got several links on today. Several links to different things. And of course there's going to be a lot to do with election fraud. Because it's not something new. It's been sort of steaming and going for a long time. You know, when political fraud has been going since beginning of whenever. And in Canada, we can't be smug about it. I mean, we have our fraud and political shenanigans going as well. And people say, what do you mean? Well, you look at the SNC-Lavalin affair, you look at the Aga Khan helicopter ride, you look at the We Charity scandal. And all of that has been sort of thrown on the shit pile and covered with more shit by our Prime Minister Trudeau. Simple. Where are the politicians? Where are the committees sort of researching that? What happened to it all? Where is the opposition now? Shovel it, cover it. And I mean, that's not just me talking. I mean, if anybody has been paying attention, you can see what's going on. And of course, a lot of people say, well, we get a stimulus check, we get our $500 or whatever we get a week. We're not saying anything. Of course not. Of course not. Look at London, from a video from last night. It was taken down once when I first tried to look at it. And he's reposted it, changed it a bit. But chances are they'll take that down as well, because censorship is starting to go crazy. You see, even the president's being just sort of really, really censored. Think about that. Some asshole, some Rasputin, some Rip Van Winkle, Jack in the Box guy, some unelected twit censors elected officials and a president, and people are okay with that. Same with Google. Same with Facebook. Strange. And most people are happy with that. They say it's all right. Going in this morning, for a coffee this morning, I turned on the radio station at 10:30 or 11:30, whatever the hell it is. It's all day news, and they were going on. They were every bit about what's happening in the States was that the Democrats are, as the votes keep getting counted, the Democrats are leading, and looking like they're on the way to victory. And despite all the false claims of election fraud, which there is no proof, and there is none. And it's interesting, it's all the mainstream media. You got to remember, the mainstream media has controlled the main guys by about 6 corporations. These corporations also donated to Black Lives Matter, the phony organization that pretends to care about people's well-being. It's interesting. And maybe you believe all that. And again, I guess you can believe all that. But if you can discuss and believe one side, you should be able to discuss and look at the other side. But that's not happening right now. In London, it was a major, you have to watch the video, it's major scuffles about the lockdown. See, they're going into a 30-day lockdown. I see the Prime Minister was on this morning talking about rising numbers and to social distance, stay at home, wear a mask, and all that garbage. He mentioned aerosol transmission. Because he just figured that out. But he hasn't figured out that a virus, the mask he was wearing won't protect him from the virus. Maybe reduce the load, but it won't protect his ass. But we have everybody doing it, so everybody's doing it, sort of crazy. We also have a lot of links to the actual situation on the ground. There's videos and what have you, people filling in multiple ballots, and it's all there. And perhaps maybe you've seen it already. Maybe you've had it up to here and you don't want to pay any more attention. After all, it's in another country. But like I say, look at what happened in London last night. Look at what's going on in New Zealand. Look at what's going on in Australia. I mean, Canada, we're sort of sheep. We're sort of done. We're all wearing our masks and following orders and bowing to the Prime Minister, sort of thing. We're believing this is really a major pandemic, even though some statisticians are saying that the flu deaths are down 2/3 from the 5-year average. But of course, we know doctors can tell the difference between flu, influenza, and a virus, right? Or can they? Or are they allowed to? That's the question. So we also have more on election fraud. This isn't new. We have some things on brass check, and brass check was started some time ago, in the early 1900s. A guy wrote a book called The Brass Check, and it was about the Hearst newspaper corruption, or propaganda that sort of tried to shift things this way or that way, shift political opinion. And I think Upton was a bit of a socialist, and I think he was sort of feeling that all mainstream media was conservative and pushing them in the toilet, sort of thing. It's probably reversed now, Democrat socialism, and are pushing conservatives in the toilet. But it's interesting to read. I think there's a PDF of his whole book if you want to read it. It's sort of interesting. And of course there's Landslide Johnson. And most people don't know who in the hell that Landslide Johnson is, unless you're paying real close attention or you're a real student of history, or you were old enough to be around then. I think 1948, Johnson made his first famous foray into the Senate. Another Democrat. But it's been that way for a while. But it's interesting reading, because it's going on right now so big time. It's right in people's faces, and nobody's trying to hide anything. You can quote numbers, and people say, well, it could be fake numbers. Well, okay. If you believe what you want to believe, if you sort of have an open mind and are concerned about what's going on, you try to walk around the circle and see what the hell is really happening, trying to figure it out. And of course, this is all falling into that International Monetary Fund, World Economic Health Council, the elites' whole program. It's all sort of falling into place. That's a scary thing. That's the scary thing. In mind, if you're wanting to be a looked after, no-name type person, I guess, hey, maybe it's for you. If you're a real loser and you figure you could slip in and you won't be looked at as a loser if we have a socialist regime here, that's all cool. But for a lot of people, that isn't cool. It's just a philosophical question, I guess one has to answer. But anyway, check out that London thing. That's and again, remember that lifetime. What happens in Europe happens in the States, and then happens here all the time, it seems. And that lifetime used to be No, in 10 years, what happened in Britain 10 years later was in the States, or 8 years later was in the States, and then a few years later was in Canada. And that time is really compressed with our instant communications, even though they're all censored. It's amazing. A major financial advisor was saying had written a note, said he was speaking to one of the top 3 journalists in the U.S. And this journalist had told him that the orders were out. They were not to discuss election fraud. They were just to focus on Biden winning. Interesting. So I'll leave you with that. It's I'm finding it totally crazy, and if one allows election fraud to happen, and yes, we get what we get, or they get what they get. Problem is, we're hooked pretty close at the hip with the U.S., and so you're concerned what happens there, and it's not pretty. Take care. Bye for now.